Hey guys, I am so excited for today's episode because we have a very special guest with us. We have Miss Alyse Bacine, who works with Akashic Records. She helps spiritual entrepreneurs. She helps people tap into their purpose and just kind of all things helping you live your best life. So I'm super excited to jump in and find out more about Alyse. Welcome to the show today.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. I'm so excited to have you here on this episode of Awaken Your Inner Awesomeness. So, why don't you just start by telling us a little bit about yourself and your journey? Because I don't think most people start off working with the Akashic Records. That's something I think that you build up to. So, if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got here, and maybe even explain to those listening who maybe don't really know what the Akashic Records are, give us a little bit of a background on that too.
Yeah, definitely. My journey started, well, I guess you could say it started my whole life, but my journey, my personal growth journey started around the age of 19, which was when I first discovered yoga, and then I discovered breath work. And breath work was really what started to change my life and what I really kind of dove into at that time in my life. I was struggling with an eating disorder and really bad anxiety. And when I discovered breath work, I discovered a way to heal myself. And my life started to really shift and change. And I became a breath worker. I did all these breath worker training programs, and I started teaching it and sharing it with people. And then, life just kind of went on, and I became a school counselor. I was a school counselor for about 10 years. I got married. I have two kids, and but I had always shared breath work on the side, and I always knew that I had a very strong psychic gift since I was a young child. But that really started to surface a lot, in the last few years. And then in 2019, I really got a very strong nudge from the universe that I needed to change my life completely and start my own business as a healer. And when I did that, I thought it was going to be mainly about breath work because that's what I've always done. And that was the main healing modality that I knew. And once I started my business in late 2019, early 2020, it just rapidly shifted and changed into many other things. So as I started doing breath work with people, I really started to turn on my psychic gifts and realized that I was getting all of this information about people and that I could really help them. And then quickly after that, I was introduced to the Akashic Records, and I took a course to learn like how to read them. But the first day when I tuned into the records, I had this really profound experience where I was like hysterical crying and feeling this crazy feeling of unconditional love. And what I realized is that I had actually always been tapped into the Akashic Records. Like it was something I'd always been doing my whole life. I just didn't know that that's what I was doing. So it just came really, really naturally to me. And I started to incorporate it in all of the work that I do with my clients. So now, I do coaching and mentorship, spiritual mentorship, and coaching for spiritual entrepreneurs. I run two courses, and the Akashic Records is really just woven throughout all of that. I'm always in people's records, and I always channel energy healing in your Akashic Records. And then I also incorporate it into the breath work that I do because I create audio breath work sessions for people that are channeled in their Akashic Records. So it's kind of just this thing that goes through everything that I do. And I will explain the Akashic Records. The way that I like to describe the Akashic Records is it's a frequency of information. So it's basically everything that has ever occurred in the universe, like a living library of everything that's ever occurred in the universe. And when I tap into a person's Akashic records, what I'm really seeing is the evolution of their soul. Like, what has their soul experienced up until now? And really, what is their soul wanting to experience? What are they wanting to expand into? And the way that I understand it is that everyone kind of receives different types of information in the records. For me personally, I always get a lot of information about your soul's purpose and the way that your soul is wanting to grow at this time. And then additionally, like what is actually blocking you from creating that growth at that time. And then clearing those blocks with energy work that I channel in the records. And then I also have the ability to connect you with your spirit guides or your intergalactic spirit guides. So that's information that I receive a lot as well. So yeah, it's really powerful. It's really fun, and it's a really great tool to get a lot of information about things that you need very quickly and efficiently.
Yeah, I can't even imagine how much that probably helps your clients because you know right away. And I'm the same way when I work with people too, is I'm able to tap into what it is that's blocking them too. But being able to just, some people go through life, they're like, I'm stuck and I don't know why I'm stuck. Like I'm just stuck. And it's hard. I don't know about you, but I can't really get as much information about myself as I can for others. And so when you're in it and you're trying to figure it out, like, why am I stuck? What's going on? Sometimes it's hard to really get to the bottom of what's causing it when you're trying to do it yourself. So when you
Yeah,
have somebody who can tap into that resource and use that tool and say, it's this, that is
totally.
so helpful, I think.
Oh, definitely. And I mean, there's a lot of things that we can do on our own, especially when it comes to like your own practice and like maintenance of things. But when it comes to the deeper work, it's really hard to see things that, especially if it's those deeper patterns, or even if, you're playing out one of those deeper patterns, it's really hard to see it when you're in it. So it's so helpful to have somebody who can point that out for you.
Yeah, because it's like when you see a friend doing something and they don't see what they're doing, and you're sitting there going, this is so obvious, but
Yeah.
you can't see it because you're just too close to the situation, I think. And so it's nice to have somebody to help coach you through something to get a different perspective, even. But I love the fact that you are using the spirituality aspect and using your psychic gifts, because I think that's the one thing that sets us apart from a regular coach, which I think coaches are great and counselors are great. It's all amazing. But there's just that extra layer of being able to tap in psychically and use your psychic abilities to really help people uncover, because it's like you said, we're talking about generations of
Yes.
patterns that people are, it's interesting. I know I'm seeing this a lot where there's one person going, well, my family's been like this for generations and I've just decided I want to be the one to change.
Mhm.
And that's amazing, but it's like, wow, that's a lot for one person to completely change a generational karmic pattern. It can
Yeah.
be done, but it's really difficult. So that's why I think working with a coach, someone like you, is really important, because it's really hard to do on your own.
Yeah, it's definitely not something that is easy to do on your own at all. Because it's just, you need somebody to not only like point things out to you, but also hold the space for you. I think is really, really important to kind of like have somebody who is supporting you and giving you feedback, but also just like holding this energetic space. And I think that's really, really important as well. You kind of are able to hold this like psychic and energetic space for people to really make those shifts and changes.
And I think, too, one of the things that I know when I worked with a spiritual life coach was it felt a lot more safe to be
Mhm.
vulnerable and to really work through the layers, because I know in my own experience, the coach that I had worked with had been through all of that kind of similar patterns and was understanding everything I was going through. So it felt very safe to be able to be very vulnerable and say, okay, this is what I'm dealing with, and I need to clear away this trauma that's happened in my life and the patterns of trauma generations before me, And so I think you don't always get that with traditional coaches and therapists. I think you don't always feel safe to be honest and to be very raw and vulnerable.
Yeah, and there's also this way of just feeling seen. Also, that I feel like when you are able to tune into someone's energy on a deep level, they can feel that and
Mhm.
they can feel that you understand on such a deep level and they feel like seen in a way that's very like satisfying that they might not have ever felt before.
Yeah, I was talking about that in a podcast episode not too long ago that one of the major needs we have is to feel like we're heard,
Yeah.
validated. And I think that you're right. I think people can sense that when you're working with them. You know,
Yeah.
I'm here cheerleading for you. I want you to be successful. I want you to have all of these things, and I think that they can sense that, and that's another thing that really helps propel people forward because they realize I'm not alone in this.
hmm Yeah, definitely.
So, how do you help spiritual entrepreneurs? Just curious. How do you work
Yeah.
with them?
Yeah. So basically, what I do is very much led by like my intuition, my psychic abilities, the Akashic Records. So it's very much a combination of healing work, energy work, and then actual like practical business stuff too. And it really depends kind of on the client and where they're at, what we end up doing in each session. A lot of my clients will come to me and they know they want to have a spiritual business, but they're still in their full time job. So I will help them leave their full time job and start their business. And, we do end up doing practical business things, but a lot of it is just the energy work to get into that energetic space to really make that transition and feel comfortable in an energetic way to like start like putting themselves out there and being who they really are. And then the other thing that I end up doing with a lot of people is just helping them really get to the place where they can clear enough trauma and clear enough of the family patterning that they're really able to download and channel their own unique form of energy medicine, whatever that is, whether it's, sound healing or energy healing or whatever it is, like their own unique thing. So that's something that ends up happening a lot with my clients too. So, it really, I have people coming to me for different reasons. Some are like already entrepreneurs that just they know that they have energetic blocks to getting to the next level. Like they already have a successful business, but they know they have some like family stuff and ancestral stuff that they want to move through in order to get to the next level. And then I have people that are not even sure what they want to do, but they know that they have some healing work to do. They know they want to like step into more of like their purpose and raising their self-worth and all of that stuff. So yeah, it's a combination. I feel like with people, they just kind of are like, oh, I think I need to work with you about this thing. you know? So it varies.
Yeah. Do you find that it's very common for a lot of people to have blocks? Um, I call them limiting beliefs and stories that keep them stuck from really stepping fully into their power.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I mean, I feel like there's a lot of people who are unknowingly playing out their family patterning, even if they are like trying not to, it still kind of shows up in certain ways. And then just feeling like afraid of really stepping forth because so many people have that what I call like the witch wound where they're afraid to come out as a psychic or as a healer or as having these abilities because of being afraid of being ostracized or like what people are going to think of them and all that stuff. So that's a big thing that I end up moving through with a lot of people because they are just it's scary. It is to step out and say like this is who I am and I have these abilities. So I work through a lot of that stuff with people as well.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And I love that you call it the witch wound because that makes total sense. But I know there's a lot of people who are afraid. And that was one of the things when I first started doing this. I'm a teacher during the day. And so when you come out and say, I have this spirituality podcast and we're talking about things like the Akashic Record, we're talking about angels and all of these things, and people do kind of give you a sideways look. But I found it really interesting that there will be people you did not expect at all who will silently message you and say, I had this experience when I was this age, and everything that you're doing, I totally believe in. And I love that about you. And I love that you're doing this. And it's always the people you don't really expect because you think they're going to be super straight laced and they don't believe in any of that stuff. So I
Yeah,
found that even if you're afraid of that, there's always somebody that you're reaching you don't realize.
totally. Like I've had so many experiences like that. Like when I first started my business, I had a lot of fear around the people that I used to work with as a school counselor, the people that I was currently working with as a school counselor. Because when I started my business, I was still a school counselor. And I had a lot of fear because I'm like, oh my God, like they don't know the side of me and like they're going to think I'm crazy or whatever. And, and then it was so funny because one of my, not first clients, but in the beginning clients ended up being somebody that was from the school that I used to work at. And I was not expecting it at all, like at all. Like that would have been like the last person I would have thought that would have become my client. And she became my client for a long time. She like completely changed her life. And now she's quitting working at that school too to become a healer. So like, it's just like, you never know. And then even like my old principal like will reply to my stories sometimes and be like, oh, I had this happen to me, like where he's just like this dude that I totally would not have thought would be like, I would have been sure that he would have thought I was nuts, but he's like telling me stuff. And there's always so many people that I'm like so surprised that I never would have thought that like reach out to me to work with me or just to like tell me things and tell me about like how much I'm helping them just from like what I'm posting. So it is really funny how you never know. And there's always people that you're like would never have expected.
It's so true, but I'm at least I think hopeful that it's becoming more of a mainstream thing to be able to talk about spirituality and talk about psychic abilities. There are always people who are going to say that no, they're frauds or whatever and don't believe.
Yeah.
And I think until you have enough experiences yourself, that's just that scientific mind, the logical brain doesn't want to accept that this is possible. Um, but it is becoming more, I think, more popular and more mainstream. And I think just like when we talk about mental health and how we need to be very open about that, and everyone should feel like it's okay to talk about their mental health. I think this is the same thing. I think it should be okay for you to talk about what you truly believe in without feeling like someone's going to persecute you or think that you're a weirdo just because you believe differently than someone else.
Yeah, totally. And there's always what I say is there's like two things about it, right? Like we can do the healing work around it and we can clear all of that stuff on an energetic level, but there's also the very practical way of just like taking the action and like putting yourself out there and doing it that creates that momentum and also creates the healing for you. Because once you like put yourself out there and then you see like, oh, this is actually fine and I'm actually helping people, and then that's when like the healing starts to occur. So now I'm just like whatever, like I talk about like aliens and whatever and it's just fine. And like people might think I'm crazy behind my back, I don't know, but like it is what it is at this point. But I still go through those moments where I'm like, oh God, people are gonna think I'm not, so whatever.
You kind of have to get to that point though, and it's not easy, but you kind of have to get to a point where you don't care what other people think. Um,
Totally.
and it's not easy necessarily sometimes to get there because many of us are so self-conscious about everything. But life gets so much easier when you stop caring what
Yeah.
people think. And what I really learned is like the more you don't care what people think, the more people actually seem to be drawn to you
Yeah.
rather than the other way around because they're like, oh, I can say what you just like you become a safe place for people to come and talk because you're like, I don't really care what people think anyways.
Yeah, it's so funny. I've had people say to me, like, oh, I really want to ask your opinion on this because I know you don't care what other people think. And I'm like, that's really funny because, like, I don't think of myself as not caring what other people think, but I guess I come off that way to other people, which like made me really happy. And I'm like, oh, maybe I don't care what other people think.
Am gonna be like this.
Yeah, I'm
So
like,
it's
oh,
just like a
cool.
freeing feeling, you know? It is a freeing feeling to not
Yeah.
really to be able to express what you're thinking and not worry about what will people think if I post this. But it's a process because you know there are still times when I'm like, oh well, I don't know if I should say that or if I should do that because what will people think? I still go through those moments, but I'm much much better than I used to be, and so now I'm at that point where like I can just kind of I don't really care, and it's so much easier I think to be that way because you just torture yourself with your thoughts when you're the other way. It's like you
Oh,
tell me things
yeah.
that are not even true.
Exactly. And you just like are consumed with making up stories about what other people are going to think of you that like aren't even true or you don't even know if it's true. It's just like such a waste of energy.
Yeah, I used to be the type of person who was so self-conscious. Like if we were in the hallway and somebody said good morning and I was like good evening, you know, I'd be like, "Oh my god, I said the wrong thing." And I would torture myself the whole day like they think you're an idiot now. You can't ever show your face in the hallway again. That was me before. And now I've realized, you know, then that person didn't even notice that I said the wrong. You know,
Oh
they
my
didn't
God. Yeah.
it,
No
you know.
one cares.
Right. But that's what we do to ourselves. And so I think it's really important to be able to kind of let all of that go. So are you still working with people with the breath work?
Yeah, so I incorporate breath work into everything that I do. So to me, it's just such a powerful tool for getting rapid momentum and transformation. So the way that I use breath work now is I create these audio breath work sessions for my clients to do on their own. So which is a combination of either I make like personalized breathwork sessions for them, which are really cool because it's not only a breathwork session, but it's also like an energetic calibration. So, whatever it is that they're wanting to step into, like their next level, I'll create a breathwork session that's channeled in their Akashic Records. It's actually like an energetic calibration for them to like just listen to over and over again to get to their next level. So I do that. And then I also have my courses, the Metamorphosis and the Awakening, where I have breathwork sessions that are in those courses that are for specific things. So, like for clearing your relationship with your mother, I have a breathwork session for that. I have one for clearing your relationship with your siblings. I have one for forgiveness, for shadow work. So like I have them for all different purposes. And so my clients kind of have this toolkit where I'm just like, oh, this is what's coming up for you. Like go do that breathwork session. So that's kind of how I use it now. Whereas before I would do more like actual doing breath work with me live, but I've realized that that's not actually a good use of my time with people, where they can just do it on their own in between and get a lot of momentum. And then when they're with me, we do more like psychic coaching and Akashic Records and energy healing.
I love that. I think that's an awesome tool that you give people because even long after they work with you, they can still use that to help them clear away some of the stuff. And I think you're right. I think those kinds of tools are best for people to do on their own so they have more of that sacred time with you to really be able to tap into your wisdom and
Yeah, definitely. And then
yeah.
they can use it forever. Like I just actually was talking to a client, a former client right before this, who was like, "Oh, I just did my birth story because a birth story is another big thing that I do with people. Breath work, you know, and she started working with me like a year ago and she's still doing it. So like you have it forever and you can always use it, which is awesome.
That's really an awesome thing because it's like you're empowering people to
Yeah.
continue doing it on their own, which I love. Because I always say, you don't just like do something once and you're healed. It's like layers you have to keep uncovering. So it's like your whole life is going to be
Yeah.
spent.
A life journey like that. This is something I always have to tell my husband because he's like, oh, well, I did this. And I'm like, yeah. And that was then. Like, you need to keep doing it. It has to be like a daily practice of whatever, you know, and your daily practice can change. But ultimately, I'm always doing a ton of stuff, but like it has to be something that you continue, because if you stop, then you're gonna get stuck again.
Yeah, and it's easy to get to that spot because life gets busy. And so many times I think people are like, I worked on this, I healed, and now I'm going to move on. And they go about their lives. And I've been guilty of that myself in the past. And
Mhm.
you realize I'm stuck again. And it's when you slow down and go, oh, I'm stuck again, you realize, oh, I've got to keep doing the work. So I think it's really important to incorporate all those things daily.
Yeah, definitely. And like I always have people say to me, because like someone will come to me and they're like, oh, well, I need help with this. And I'll like immediately tell them, like, oh, I'm pretty sure it's like, your relationship with your mom. And they're like, oh, well, I've already done so much work around that. I'm like, it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't just stop, like,
Yeah.
'cause that's often, I think, a misconception that people have, where it's like, oh, I worked on my relationship with my mom. And I'm like, really? Because it's going to come up at every single time you grow, like every single time. So, yeah, you might understand it better, but you don't just like work on it and then it's done. So, I think
Yeah, and
that's
you
so,
get triggered, I mean, as you go throughout
yeah,
life, there's triggers. I feel like the universe throws lessons at us all the time. Like, did you really heal this? So you'll get a trigger that then all of a sudden you're like, why am I? And I have clients say that all the time. I thought I was over this. Why is it coming back up again for me? And I'll say, because it is like layers, you don't go in and wipe it all out in one session and then you're done. It's going to keep coming up for you to heal. But the good news is the more you do it, the easier it gets and the less often it comes up, I think.
yeah, definitely. And then when you are really like good at it, and you can recognize it immediately, so you don't have to like spin out at all. You're just like, oh, I see what's happening here. And then you use the tools that you have to clear it. So it's like a lot easier, because it's not like you're getting all like upset, or you're getting all stuck wondering what's going on. You're just like, oh, this is that thing. Okay, I'm gonna move through it. Boom, done.
Yeah, I think that's the thing that I try to get across to people is like when you work with a coach, the most important thing is you get the tools that you need. So if that thing comes up again for you, which it will, you can
Mhm.
quickly get back to that balance and get back to center and heal because you acknowledge, you recognize this is what's happening, you acknowledge it, and then you have the tool to clear it and then
Yep,
you can go on. So, what I like to say is it gives you the tools you need to help you deal with what life throws at you.
totally. Yeah, that's really true. I love that.
Yeah. So awesome. If people want to work with you and, have you look into their Akashic record or if they want to take one of your courses or just follow you, what's the best way they can do that?
So you can follow me on Instagram, which is Alyse_breathes. And then I also have a Facebook group called Breathe to Succeed, which is really fun. I go live in there every week with my energy forecast. And then I also have a panel of experts that go live in there every week to share their wisdom. So that's a really fun way to connect with me. And then also my website, which is alysebreathes.com.
And I saw that you've been on a lot of different podcasts. So I think on your website, you have a page where people can go and just listen to episodes where you've been a guest on other people's podcasts, which
Yep,
that's
exactly.
awesome.
Yeah. If you want to hear me talk on other podcasts, you can just go there, and there's a ton of content to listen to.
That's awesome. And we'll have all that information in the show notes too. So you can just go directly there and click on it. And if you want to join her Facebook group, you can do that. Because it sounds like you offer a lot of really awesome free resources for people who just follow you. So that's cool. I love that.
Yeah, definitely.
So I always like to ask our guests to leave our listeners with one nugget of wisdom to help them throughout their day or even the rest of their life. What piece of wisdom can you share with our listeners today?
I think it would be to not only just follow your intuition, but take action on it. So I think, a lot of people will feel drawn to something, but then be like, oh, should I do that? And kind of be in that in between period for a long time. And my advice would be to just act on it. If you feel drawn to doing something or changing your life in any way, don't wait, just do it, because you'll be happy that you did.
I love that. And it's so true too. You have to take risks in life. And I always say that nothing exciting ever happens from your comfort zone. So sometimes we have to
So
step
true.
outside of that.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm going to thank you so much for being here with us today. This was so much fun. Well, you're welcome to come back anytime and share more about the Akashic Records with us or anything you're working on. So go check out her website. You can click on it in the show notes. Thank you again for being here with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
I want to thank you guys for listening today, too. As always, if you like this podcast, please subscribe. Please leave a positive review from wherever you're listening. And the greatest compliment you can pay me is to share this podcast with anyone you think might enjoy it. Don't forget to follow me on social media. I go live Mondays on Facebook at 6:30 Central, where I do a free card reading. If you show up for the live, I'll pull a card especially for you. And if you want to work with me, you can go to my website, melissaoatman.com. There you'll see all the services I offer. If you want to work with me and you're not really sure what you need, just book a free discovery call with me. I'll hop on a call with you and we'll see how I can best serve you. I hope you guys have a beautiful day from wherever you're listening. As always, I am sending you so much love and light, and I will talk to you soon. Bye, guys.